Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi because, folks, I think tonight's guest really exemplifies what, caring about people is all about and doing everything she can to help people, especially people as they get older in age and stuff like that. And she really came onto the scene, I want to say, in 2017 or 18 with the short film My Mom and the Girl, which happened to be actress Valerie Harper's final appearance in acting before her untimely death. But she has a real great documentary out right now called No Country for Old People. And it really focuses on the neglect of patients in nursing homes. And we're really going to get into that. And she's an award-winning filmmaker. We're very honored to have her. She's a podcast host. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Miss Susie Singer-Carter. And Susie, I want to thank you for coming on today. It really is an honor for me.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and talk with you.
Yeah. So Susie, before we get into your career and things like that, what made you want to get into writing, directing, and doing films and things like that?
Certifiably nuts. No, I'm kidding. No, I love telling stories, and I know it's become such a trope. I'm a storyteller, but I do, I started as an actress, and I did a lot of work as an actress, and then I started writing because I thought that it would be I felt like I would have more control over the kinds of roles that I could get if I could write the kinds of roles that I wanted to play. And that brought me into the development world and producing and writing and directing. And I thought, you know what, I like it so much better than being in front of the camera. And I just love the idea of a seed and watching it, realizing it to a project. So that's how I got into it. That was my motivation. And I wanted to tell stories that had a giveaway, something that people could take with them, that whether even if it's a comedy, at least have something that makes you think after you finish watching.
Right. And Susie, I always say this, that no matter what film it is, the actors could be tremendous. They could be outstanding. But if the writing isn't good, it's not going to work. And I think writing a film or writing a series, whatever it might be, a book, whatever, it is always the most challenging thing because you have to tell that story right. And you don't want to, I want to say you don't want to go too long, but you also don't want to go too short. There just has to be a middle that keeps people's interest. So just talk about the challenge of writing.
Oh, wow. So, it's kind of a daunting process. I think I started off in children's programming and I was doing, so that's half hour, right? And a lot of guidelines, and I love children. I love kids. And I was at the time, when I first started doing 2 shows for CBS Saturday morning, and that didn't seem very daunting because, there's a lot of breaks and it's very sort of edutainment, right? So you have a lot of educational information that has to go. It's actually it's regulated. You have to have it. It's called entertainment information, and it's vetted by doctors and psychologists, and there's quite a system for children's programming. But when I transitioned into features, which was it, I don't have my poster up. I was going to say no, I do. I there it is. Bratz. I just moved here in my new house, but Bratz, yeah. I did. That was my first feature. And when I got that feature, that was daunting because it was like, oh, I have the story, but now I have to actually put it down. And you, like you said, you have to have a thread that brings you through, and that is exciting enough, that resonates enough, that has enough meat that people want to keep watching it. And you want to try to make it unique enough, but not too unique. And especially with something like Bratz, where you've got a specific niche of audience. So you're dealing with the tweens and their families. It's family fare. And notwithstanding, I mean, we had big actors in it. We had John Voight, and I had to write and I knew I was writing for those kinds of voices. So it became a very big challenge for me. But of course, I just said, got it, I'll do it. I mean, it was offered to me and I was like, I got this, don't worry. And then you go home and you go, oh my God, I hope I can deliver, you know? But I think it's like, if you, you know, you just got to do it. It's when it comes to something like that, you have to do it. My first mentor, who was a writer, showrunner, Eric Van Loo, told me when I was pitching to him, he had said one day, I went to pitch to him some projects and he said, it's great that you're pitching, but you know, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the writing that makes a difference. You better get to writing. And that really changed my life.
Right. And Susie, it's kind of interesting you brought that Bratz the movie up, because you actually wrote the final screenplay for that, but yet you lost out on the credits for that by the Writers Gold arbitration. I mean, that to me, like, is part of the business that is unfair, because, you know, to this day, yourself and so many are confused by that, because, I mean, you really wrote a great script and should have gotten more credit than you did.
Thank you so much for bringing, that I tell that story, you know, for new writers. I say it all the time, and I'm very active in the Writers Guild myself. And it's something I bring up ad nauseum, because I do think that our arbitration and our credit system is antiquated, and it was set up at a time where, you know, back in the good old days, when directors would come and say, you know, suggest a line, and then they'd go and say, I wrote that film, right? So suddenly there was a bias against producers and directors, and if you threw your hat in the ring as a writer at the Writers Guild and you were a producer or a director, you suddenly had all these strikes against you and you had to prove yourself, which is why arbitration came up into play. And it's very difficult, because that was my first feature. And I thought, oh, you know, the writer before me who was fired was the one that brought it into arbitration, saying that she wrote the script. And I thought, oh, I'm never going to lose. I, of course, wrote this script. I mean, I wrote it. It was a page one rewrite. It was a completely different concept. And I was already hired to write the sequel. I'm going to get this. No worries. And then I lost it and we appealed. And my director came with me to the appeal. The executive producer called them up and said, if you don't give this woman at least shared credit, this is a kangaroo court. I mean, they were livid. And I still lost. And it's, you know, that's a whole nother podcast, to be honest with you. But it's something to be aware of, that, you know, it was based on a time where they were protecting the writer, but it no longer protects the writer, because, you know, everybody gets credited in a film that contributes anything except for writers. There's a limited amount of credits that can be doled out. So I aim to change that in my lifetime too. That's another mission on my list.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, another screenplay that you did outstanding, and I think it won a couple of awards, is Run. And that was kind of based on a book, Plain Jane, I believe. So talk about writing that, because again, that was a very underrated film as well. And talk about just being able to put that together.
Right. So that film hasn't come out yet, as far as I know. But I was hired to adapt a book called Plain Jane, and I pitched it. I was interviewed and pitched, and I pitched it. The writer producer of the book, who loved my take on it. I felt like the book didn't have enough for a movie. It didn't have the conflict that it needed, or the arc that it needed. And I felt like I brought a very good arc to it and a very great surprise towards the end. And we did. So she hired me. We got together, and yeah, we did. We won a lot of awards on the screenplay. And then I began to produce that with her, and we had, you know, went through the whole production process, and then I was attached as a director. And then, you know, anyway, that's a whole nother story too. But that was up until the end of December, and I am no longer attached as director, right, as it goes in Hollywood, because you know, 5 years later we had it attached to a production company, and they decided that they wanted a different director, as it goes. But yeah, it's a great script. I'm very proud of the script, and I think it's so timely, and it has to do with friendship and IVF for pregnancy, but that it's not that kind of movie. It's really more about what's the big question in a very lovely, fun, yet deep kind of script. But it's not heavy, but it asks the questions that we really need to ask during this time, which is, are we playing God?
Yeah.
I think not.
Susie, I mentioned my mom and the girl, and I'm a big Valerie Harper fan. I enjoyed her from, Rhoda to Valerie's Family, so many things she did. And you got to work with her, and that had to be something that was special for you. Because
cannot
you're talking about a woman. Yeah. You're talking about a woman. Yeah. You're talking about a woman who really paved the way for so many other women in Hollywood, because in the 70s, it was more, it was still like kind of a dominant men's era, and herself, there were so many other people that kind of changed that, showed that women are just as invaluable to TV as men are. And she really paved the way for that. So just talk about being able to work with her. And, it ended up being her last film, unfortunately, but I'm sure for you to be able to kind of produce her last film, that had to be something special for you.
I'm looking for my picture with her. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can get it over there. Wait. Here we go. There we go. You see us over there?
That's a nice pic. Yes.
So Valerie, I cannot say enough good things about this woman. She was an angel. She was like my second mom. She loved the script. I had sent it to her. She fell in love with it. She embodied it. She embodied the role of my mother. It was based on my mom, a day in the life of my mom when she lived with me with Alzheimer's. But it was funny and warm and poignant and full of music, because my mother had a recording contract in her younger days at Capitol Records, and so I had all of her original cuts. And boy, Valerie was just unbelievable and so generous, and I treasure it, and I miss her so much. She was so generous. We would be on a red carpet, and of course everybody loved Valerie. She was America's sweetheart, and she was so generous. They would want to talk to her, and she'd go, "Oh, no. You want to talk to this girl, meaning me. She's done it all. She wrote it, she directs it, she acted in it, she produced it. She looks like a Tootsie, but she's not." And so she just was so sweet, and always would push me out in the front, and wanted the best for me. And I went to her house one day to visit her, and after we had finished, and we were hanging out, and she had just moved into a new condo, and she had all of her Emmys. I can send you the picture of it behind us in this cabinet, but they weren't unwrapped yet or anything. They were just in bubble wrap and just sitting there. And I said, "Valerie, you need to unwrap all your Emmys. It's like so amazing." She goes, "Oh, do you want one? Take one."
That is so nice. And, it's things like that, Susie, that make people who don't know them other than, as actors and actresses and things like that. It's very refreshing to see that she was just a normal human being and wasn't full of herself. And the fact that she was generous enough to say to you, "Take one if you want," just goes to show that she understood that you don't forsake your fans and you don't forsake the people that help you along the way.
She would never stop to talk. She would never not stop and talk to someone who wanted to say hello. I saw that time and time and time again. And she really listened and would really connect when someone wanted to meet her. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Right. And Susie, I'm trying to remember. I mean, she had to be sick by the time she was doing this, correct? I mean, and the fact that she worked and came to work and things like that, and still had such an optimistic outlook on things, really says a lot, like I said, about the person, not just the actress.
She was so much like my mother. My mother always like loved life, but she said, when I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. Don't worry, I've done it all, right? And Valerie was the same way. She'd say, Susie, I've had such an amazing life. I have not missed anything. It's been an amazing life. She's like, I would leave already if it wasn't for Tony, because Tony was her husband. He was like, who was also her manager. And she goes, but it's been an amazing ride. Don't want to go to my funeral before I'm ready, but when I'm ready, I'm ready. Right. So she was always so upbeat about that. And I don't know if you remember, but she was diagnosed with brain cancer about 7 years before we did the film. And it was like a death sentence. They said, you have 6 months to live. And she was going on all the talk shows and telling people, this is what it is. And I think at that time she was saying, I'm not going to go to my funeral before I have to, but it is what it is. And lo and behold, 7 years later, and she did Dancing with the Stars, and she had done a couple other projects, and she just wanted to enjoy her life and do what she wanted to do. And I feel honored that it was punctuated with this film that, by the way, has touched so many people. Her portrayal and this lovely story that I thank my mom for, because it's a true story and it's very lovely, and everyone should see this, whether you know anything about Alzheimer's or not, because it's just a story about 3 disparate women who change each other's life in a very lovely moment. And it just really will reinforce how you feel about life and diversity and the value of people, no matter what they have and where they are and what station of life they're in.
Right. Now, Susie, before we get to No Country for Old People, which I just find very remarkable, I was thinking about it when I was kind of researching all of this. And years ago, I did security at a nursing home. And one of the things I did not like at the nursing home is how I would see the way the receptionists would treat these patients. I mean, screaming at them, yelling. Now, that doesn't mean that's every nursing home, but it's just the one I worked at that I had a bad experience with. And it made me wonder, because, a lot of the residents there, they have different health problems. It made me wonder, do they get taken advantage of because they can't really, stick up for themselves and defend themselves and things like that. But what's interesting to me is how you really felt like you would put your mom in, it was like a 5-star nursing home. I mean, it was supposed to be state of the art. And that experience, the last, I want to say 5 or 6 months of her life, was really awful for her.
Yes, it was. Yeah. What you saw is, what you experienced, just that little window that you saw, is really, unfortunately, the majority, of standard of care that we have in our country. I didn't know it until I delved in. I thought what was happening to my mom was just, specific to the facility that she was in, which, by the way, was a 5-star facility in Los Angeles. So, and a very unexpected and so unexpected that you kind of doubt yourself when you see things that are happening. You're like, well, maybe this is just a bad day. Maybe that person's not really, and you start making excuses when you think, how could they be a 5-star? And, and everyone, recommending you got to put your mom in this place. And, but the truth is that the way that the business model is set up for long-term care, it is unfortunately that standard of care is where we're at. And the other is, if there is a good place, where there are some, they are not the standard. They're the outliers. And that's the tough truth about it.
Right. And Susie, I think about in your mother's situation, clearly she wasn't able to speak up for herself. She went through such a devastating disease that so many people go through. And you, as her child, you're an adult, obviously, but you'll always be her child. You are entrusting that she is going to get the best care because you've put her in there, and you are trusting that the staff and the faculty, whoever, they're going to take care of her. So, I mean, for you, it had to be very heartbreaking and also very frustrating to know that she wasn't getting the care that you, let's face it, I mean, you definitely put a lot of, money. I don't want to say money, but you definitely put a lot of stock into having her have the best care possible.
Right. I mean, we all do. We all pay for, when someone lives a long life, unless you're very independent, wealthy, you're in maybe the 1 or 2%. Eventually, if you live a long life, you're going to have some kind of illness. It just happens, right? It's equal opportunity. And then if you have a cognitive disability, often they can last very long. It can be a very long exit. My mom started having signs of Alzheimer's 16 years before she passed away. So it can be a very slow, long disease. And because of that, you start depleting your savings, exponentially. And so inevitably you're going to end up, if you are in assisted living, which is all private pay, you're going to get kicked out of assisted living once you have no more personal funds left. And you're going to be relegated to a facility that will take Medicaid, right? So that said, we pay for Medicaid out of our paychecks. We pay for that. That's something that's insurance that we paid for just these, just these situations, right? And so we still should expect that our money is spent properly and that it's not being taken by investors, and it's, as opposed to being put into quality care. And that's what's been happening for decades, for over 5 decades. The same issues have been going on. So that if you don't care about older people, if you don't think, oh, I'm never going to get old, or I'm young, that's like a million years away, remember that it's your money. And that chances are that when you're going to need that money, and it doesn't mean if sometimes many people have to, rely on Medicaid when they're younger. If you get disabled, if you can't afford health insurance and something happens and you need an operation or you need, hospitalization, you're going to have to use your Medicaid. And if it's not there, what are you going to do? Right. So it's not just an elder issue. It really is it's a humanities issue. So that's why it's so important to understand that you are not getting the care that you deserve and that you paid for.
Right. And, Susie, just some of the statistics I was looking at that really kind of shocked me. They really did. And I think about nursing homes in Michigan. They funneled $1.2 billion through related party companies, and then in 4 chains examined, staffing levels were well below recommended, and care compare star ratings were below average. So, I mean, there are so many things that just really shocked me as I was looking at all this. And that's really why you were motivated to do this documentary, because it's not about, listen, the unfortunate thing is your mother is no longer with us, but you really don't want to ever see anybody go through what your mother had to experience. And that's really the inspiration for doing this, correct?
100%. I did not know what I was in for. I didn't know anything about the long-term care system, right? Who does, unless you have to be. And we really very successfully isolated our population, and part of the population that's disabled and or elderly. And we've done it, and we've gotten to the point where we're very good at it. And we compartmentalize and say, well, they're old and they need to go in these places. And then we put them in, and we do what one of my experts says: we buy the lobby because the lobby looks great, but we don't look behind, the curtains, right? We don't really know what's going on. And of course it's scary, and of course it's not sexy, and of course it's, it's all those things we don't want to look at, our mortality, everything. I get it. But when it was happening to my mom, I have a podcast called Love Conquers All about Alzheimer's, and I had finished watching a miniseries called Dope Sick on Hulu, and it was about the pharmaceutical case against Purdue Pharma, who was perpetrating and putting OxyContin into the marketplace, and really causing the crisis that we have today with opioids. And that was the Sackler family. And Rick Mountcastle, who was the main prosecutor, was played by the actor Peter Sarsgaard. And Michael Keaton plays the doctor. And at the end of that miniseries, the last episode, Rick's partner came in to tell him, well, we've got our next case, I think, and it's another pharmaceutical, and it's Abbott Labs, and they're off marketing this drug called Depakote to nursing homes. Well, probably most people didn't know what that meant. To me, it was like bum, 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 because my mom was given Depakote off market in her assisted living, and that put my mom, who was physically a pistol, in a wheelchair and incontinent for the rest of her life, and that was 8 years of her life. I didn't know they were using Depakote, and that's what it's called, is chemical restraining, because based on the business model that we have today and have had for decades, like I said, one of the first things they cut is staff, and if you don't have staff, you're not going to be able to attend to the residents. You're going to overwork your staff. Your staff is going to be suffering. They're going to have moral injury, if not physical, just exhaustion, because they can't keep up with it. And it is the hallmark. It is the cause of almost every problem in a nursing home. All the things that people shouldn't get. They shouldn't be dehydrated. They shouldn't have UTIs. They shouldn't have bed sores. Those are a never event from according to CMS, which is our Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. But they do have, and it's common. And the people that work there, the administrators will tell you, we just can't help it. That happens when people get old. No, that is not normal. It should never if you get a bed sore, you should nip it in the bud immediately. And if they don't, that's neglect and abuse. That means someone's not looking. And bed sores, I didn't know. My mom had one. That was the thing that put her in the hospital. Those are the most evil things you could think. I mean, if they're not taken care of, they can kill you. They do kill you. They cause sepsis. They cause pneumonia. They cause, kidney failure. You name it. It is awful. And when a facility's understaffed, they can't attend to everybody. They just can't. People are left to urinate, defecate in their beds because they can't help them get to the bathroom. And that's another problem, because forget about dignity, right? Forget about that. That's a whole nother subject. Just that alone, though, if you're laying in something that's wet for 8 hours, you're going to get a bed sore.
Yeah.
So those are the things that happen, and they're not rare. They are the common. They're every day it happens. I mean, it's the norm. It's the stories that I heard over and over and over. So I really, and then Rick Mountcastle, let me just finish that story. He came on my podcast. He told me, he made it very clear to me that what I was going through was not a one-off. It was not just my mom's facility. It was a systemic crisis. And he had, it turned out, federally prosecuted nursing homes across the country for over 2 decades for fraud and neglect abuse. And although he might win individual cases, he said nothing had ever changed. And if anything, it had gotten worse. And that the standard of care in most of these places is bad. Not good. It's bad. And those are the standards. And I said, what can we do about it as the public? And he said, that's a really good question. I don't know. And that's when, our wheels started turning. He was, Rick was retiring. This was in 2022, 3 years ago, the year my mom died. And I said, I decided I was going to do a documentary because I had seen things that I couldn't unsee. And he said, I didn't know what I was going to do with my 15 minutes of fame from Dope Sick. And now I do. I want to work with you, Susie. And I'm so fortunate. And so is the public fortunate that he came on this with me, because he brings a whole level of expertise that I didn't have, which is, the federal the understanding of how the federal government works within this system, and what I was going to be up against. And vetting everybody that I interviewed, and making, it was very difficult to raise money, because you have people that are vested in this industry, in this healthcare industry, as it were, wealth care, I like to say. And they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. So they would, kindly just turn away nicely and say, yeah, have a conflict of interest, whatever the case may be. And Rick taught me that, that you interpret that as follow the money.
Right.
So I have gotten to this point where I now understand that when you say what happened with Michigan with the related parties, that is the business model. It's not just in Michigan, that's across the country. There are related parties. It looks just like organized crime.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, Susie, is the fact that they were purposely letting these patients or these residents go without water and food for days. They are kind of treated like they're warehoused, and they're really embezzling money from the elderly, which is just really so upsetting. And I mean, here's the thing. This is something that bothers me a lot too, is I think a lot of times people just assume that when people get older, whether they're in their 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever it might be, they kind of have like this mentality sometimes, well, they're going to die eventually, but that doesn't mean they have to. Like, they could live a lot longer, and they should get the best care possible. And it shouldn't be treated.
Yes.
It shouldn't be treated like, I think a lot of times when they go to nursing homes, the attitude is they're going there to die, and it shouldn't be treated like that. It shouldn't be treated like you're going there to die. It should be treated, you're going there so you could get the best care possible that you can't really get one-on-one at home.
Absolutely. 100%. You got it. You got it, dude. That is it. I mean, it really is that simple. I mean, and that goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier about the ageism and the ableism that we have, slowly but surely slid into. And it's given us, sort of a great justification and a compartmentalization of how we treat our elderly and our disabled. Because again, it's not only older people that have to take advantage of long-term care. So, but we do say, well, they have this disability, they don't really know, or, they, like you said, they're going to die anyway. Well, I know how many people in their 80s and 90s do you know that are vibrant and love their life? My mom did.
Yeah.
My mom didn't want to die. She was still enjoying. And, and I'll just tell you this, and you have to watch the documentary. Please watch the documentary, everybody, because it's so informative. Yes. I'm not biased in it. I'm really not. I am just the messenger. But I'll tell you, you talk about not having food and water. My mom was put on NPO, which means nothing by mouth, without me knowing it. Because it was during COVID, and they gave her a feeding tube through her stomach and told me they couldn't remove it because she was aspirating. She would get aspiration pneumonia if anything got into her lungs. Well, at first I believed them, thought, well, why would they tell me anything else? Well, no, first of all, my mom was not aspirating. She lived to eat and drink. I mean, that was her life. I mean, what else do you do? You just eating is like, it's part of our base thing of being a human being. She was so tortured, and that went on for 6 months. And I kept fighting with them and saying, then let's just, what are we doing? Like, this is not no life. And, they find, and that comes down to them. It's easier for them. They don't have to help her eat. They don't have to bring water, and they don't have to just stick a tube in her and warehouse her.
Yeah. And, Susie, I thought about this as well, that I don't think, and listen, again, this is not everybody. I'm sure there's nursing homes where the staff are tremendous. I'm talking about, what I've read with this report and the experience I had and things like that. And I'm sure it goes on other places as well. But I don't want to just be negative and say that everybody treats people like that. But the one thing that I will say is, if we're all lucky, we're going to get old someday.
That's right.
We're going to get into our 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever it might be. And I say to myself, those employees who are treating those residents like that, patients like that, stop and think and say, you know what? Someday I'm going to be like Henry is when I get to be 80 something, or I'm going to be like Sharon is when I get to her age. Like, the point is that you have to understand that while they're getting older right now and they're struggling with different deficiencies and illnesses, that you said it probably 15 minutes ago, Susie, we all die from something. We all get sick eventually if we live long enough. So try to think about how you would feel if somebody was not giving you the care that you would want when you get to be that age.
Right. Exactly. Well said. And to your point about there's some good places out there, of course. I want to answer that by saying, even if half of the places, which they're not, half of them were great, that doesn't take away the half that aren't. It doesn't help those people that are going through suffering right now while you and I are talking. Because everybody that I've talked to, whether they've had experience with a good place, will tell you about the bad places. So everybody knows they exist. So we can't use the fact that there might be some good ones to distract us from the fact that there are terrible ones. And it's not the people so much that are running them. It's the owners that have the luxury of non-transparency. So we don't know who they are. We can't go after them. These corporate veils are very, 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 very strict. They're very difficult to penetrate. So, they don't get in trouble. It's the individual facilities that get sued, but that's all if they get sued at all. And, that's all built into their business model. So if they get a penalty, it's really just the cost of doing business. And that's already built into it. No one's getting criminally charged. And yet people are dying all the time. It's like one of my legal experts who speaks about transparency and the business model goes to Congress all the time. And he says it straight out. They're literally killing your loved ones to make more money.
Yeah, it's a business, unfortunately, and it's not a good business. And Susie, I wanted to ask you this. Obviously, the documentary comes out this Friday, and I know it's going to be on Amazon, which I can't wait to see it. But let me ask you, since you've been kind of, I don't want to use the word investigating this, but you have done a documentary on this. You've done research. You've been an advocate for it. Have you seen where they're starting to pay attention to the neglect that's going on? I mean, like, let's bring this Michigan these facilities up. Do you see where now they're starting to investigate them and see what's going on? Because I got to tell you right now, like, something has to change. I mean, I just think of people that are going through these illnesses and they can't defend themselves. They have to rely on the people that are taking care of them. And if they're not taking care of them properly, that's a big problem. It really is.
It really is. Well, no, the answer is not yet, because the hope is that this project gets out there. It's a 3-part docuseries because we couldn't cut it down to a size in one film because there's just too much to tell. But at the end of the day, it really is got to be a movement, and that's something. And we've launched a movement that's called ROAR, a grassroots movement, 501c3. It stands for Respect, Oversight, Advocacy, and Reform for Long-Term Care. And I'm calling for people to join us, be a roarier, and to your point, roar for the people that can't roar. And that is the power we have. I want to mention that something I didn't mention. Why is this industry stayed the way it has, despite all the traditional advocacy that's gone on? And there's been a lot for decades, because there is a nursing home lobby that's been in place for just as long. And the nursing home lobby is powerful. It's more powerful than the pharmaceutical lobby. They pay our politicians to not make decisions that are not advantageous to them. They have embedded themselves in our legislature. So if we do advocate for a bill traditionally, they may take it under consideration, and you will find out that it has died on the vine. If it doesn't die on the vine, like say Biden's, big bill when he was on, when his administration, which had a minimum staffing requirement, even with a minimum staffing requirement, which we've had in California because they're state by state, they are not enforced. There's no oversight. So it's just platitude. It's just performative. So how is real change going to happen? It's on us as a collective. It's like any other hard issue, like the LGBTQ, the Me Too movement. All those movements come from people because we don't have the money to fight the nursing home lobby. What we do have is our constituency, and that's our currency.
Right.
And that is a powerful thing. And so we know how many movements that we have had. I show it in the documentary. I don't leave you depressed. I promise you. I hope that you are motivated to say, stop it already. This is inhumane. And that's what I want the people to do, and say to our politicians, we know what you're doing. Stop it. We got you. We're not voting for you. We know what you're up to. And that is the only way we're going to get change. And, there's plenty of great models on how to have good quality care. That's done. I'm just a filmmaker. I'm just the megaphone. Many, many, many people have already created all kinds of scenarios that work beautifully. We just need the money not to go to pay for other people's private jets and homes and cars, and you get the picture.
Yeah. And I really admire you for doing this, because I could tell that this is motivated by what you saw with your mother, and you want change to happen for this because you don't want to see anybody go through this, and it's a horrible thing. And this film is more about you putting it out there that we have to do something. We have to fight for these, for the elderly especially. And that's your only motivation. It's not about making money. It's not, and that's the difference. That's the difference between you and what's going on here is they're trying to do a corrupt business, and you're trying to make change. And I think that's something that says a lot about you as a person, because yes, you're a filmmaker. Yes, you're a writer, a director, everything, but you're also a person that cares about people's rights and what they should get and things like that. And you're really doing everything in your power to never let happen that was done to your mother and so many people before your mother and people right now that are going through something like this.
Thank you. That's really, I really appreciate your kind words, Mike. And I want to say, I've been saying this to people a lot, is that, documentaries are not money makers generally anyway. If you're making a documentary, it's a lot of sweat equity, as this one has been. They're change makers. They're not money makers. And that's all we hope. I know that most documentarians want to do that. They want to either educate or change. Some of them, of course there's some entertaining ones, some music ones that are great. But I'm just saying, for the most part, they're not money makers. And so for sure, this is a purposeful endeavor, and one from my heart, and one from so many people's heart. I mean, I cried with so many people in their interviews, like we cried together. So, I hope that this touches people's hearts and opens up their mind to understand what's going on and the inhumane treatment that people that we love are undergoing for no reason.
Right. And, Susie, this really hits home a lot because, my mother suffered for 35 years from multiple sclerosis, was bedridden for over 20 years.
Oh.
And we never once considered putting her in a home because we just felt like, she wouldn't get the care. So like, credit to my sister. She did a lot of the work as far as caring for her. But I mean, this is like what people need to understand is that if you have parents, siblings, even whatever the case may be, and they can't really take care of themselves, you don't want somebody mistreating them. You want them to get the best care possible because they can't take care of themselves, and they're really relying on the people that are taking care of them. And if that's not happening, then that's something that has to be addressed, and it has to change, and it has to change now.
Can I ask you a quick question? So your mom was bedridden?
Yes.
And how valuable was she?
She never, I will tell you right now, the last month of her life when she got sick because she had, contracted something, that's the only time she was having any issues with her mental state. She was very, vibrant the entire time.
Right. And
so
to you, though, how valuable was she to you as your family, right? Your family, you loved, you all loved her.
Yeah, she was still a mother, a wife, a grandmother. She never stopped being any of that. She just could not move her arms and legs, unfortunately.
There you go. And so they're there. Yeah. So whatever their disability is, it's like we don't say to children who are babies that don't walk that haven't walked yet, get up, you got legs. What's wrong with you? Ugh, you're just like, you're useless, or you don't talk yet. Well, come on. We give grace to babies, and I'm not infantilizing our adults. I'm saying give grace to our adults who are having, challenges because they're still there. Even if they can't walk or maybe they can't talk, they can't articulate. Guess what? They're still there. Guess what? Children who don't articulate, they'll tell you when they're happy. They'll tell you when they're mad. They'll tell you when they're cranky and tired and hungry, and you love them. Well, I loved my mom till the day she died, and I cherished every day that she was on this earth. So for me, it was important, and she was loving her life too. I was go to see her at the nursing home every day, and I'd say to her, "How are you doing today, Mommy?" She'd go, "I am great. I'm alive. Life is good. The alternative sucks." Right. Yeah. And so, and that was my mom. And believe me, if you asked her 10 years before that, would you want to be in bedridden or whatever? And she would probably go, "Please, God forbid." But you know what? Our values, our priorities change because life is special.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
right?
she had her loved ones, and she wanted to keep going for that reason. And that's the thing too, Susie. I would feel that not only was it heartbreaking for you, but there has to be anger inside you for the way she was treated. And, you don't want to like live your life in anger, but there is some anger there, or maybe resentment is the better word. And this is why you're very adamant about that this change has to happen, because again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you do not want to see anybody have to go through what so many people have went through in the remaining years of their lives.
Right. You don't want to go through it yourself. Honestly, you don't. Yeah. It's not right. And so, people ask me that lately, you must be angry, because before, when I used to do interviews, no one said that, because I think I was living in my stoicism, because but I think I've learned enough to say, yes, it's okay to be angry. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm not angry at the people. I'm angry at the system and the people that are supposed to be overseeing it, and they're not. That's where my anger lies. That's where my blame goes. And that's a heavy lift, and I can't do it myself. I really can't. None of us can. We need the collective, and and it's just freaking important. It is base. It is the basis of humanity. We need to care for each other. It's the circle of life. 100 tropes, but it's true.
Yeah, it really is. And so, Susie, let me ask you, it's definitely going to air this Friday, August 1st. Like I said, Amazon. are there any other streaming networks that we might be able
Yeah,
to see?
you might know more from my publicist. I think there's a whole list of that it's going to roll out on. If
Right.
I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know that's going to roll out. It's going to be on demand, and it's in 3 parts, as I said.
Yeah.
You can binge them, or you don't have to binge them. But I mean, it'll be available on demand starting Friday, and then I think it goes to Hoopla and Roku,
Yeah, Spectrum,
Spectrum.
Carter, Cox. Oh,
Yeah.
it's on Tubi, which is a very popular network. It's
Uh-huh.
also on Xfinity. So I mean, there are a lot of options. It's also on Prime. There's a lot of options for
Yeah.
people to see it. And again, I would definitely encourage everybody to watch this because again, like I said, if you have parents, like, you know, and you might have parents who aren't doing well right now, you want to be able to watch this because you're going to learn things that you probably had no idea about.
100%. And you don't want to be making decisions when you're in the crisis, like I was. And so when you don't know what, you're playing whack-a-mole really. And you're going, and so you're just, when you're in crisis, you start lowering your standards because you want things to be better, but it's like, this is all they're giving you. So you go, oh, okay, well, all right. Because you don't have any other choice because you're not educated. You don't know what is your rights. So definitely watch it. If you find it valuable, listeners, please rate and review because that will trigger Amazon to push it out more. And we want as many people as possible to have a chance to see it. And if it's not on their radar, they won't know it's there.
Most definitely. And folks, I really do hope that you will check this out. And I know a lot of you will. I mean, this is something that's for a great cause. And Susie, I really do applaud you because what you are doing is you're about making a change. And this is a change that's important. It's not a change that, where you get your hair done differently or things like that. It's a change that is going to help so many people. And I really do applaud you and your team of people who have, I even think isn't like one of your relatives a part of this project as well? She was in it.
My daughter.
That's your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really do applaud all of you because you're spreading the word out there and you put all this work in because I'm sure, again, you said it yourself, documentaries don't really make money, but you put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make this happen. So I really do admire you for that. And it just goes to show that not only are you a tremendous filmmaker, but you're also a remarkable person. And what you're doing is something very special. And you should be very proud of the type of human being you are because I really admire you for that.
Oh, I'm going to cry. Stop. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I just wanted to say one more thing is that I'm very proud that Jane Fonda, who is such a tremendous woman, and she's in her late 80s, gave us a quote about it, about our project, and said, and posted on social media, as did Lily Tomlin, as did Lisa Gibbon, and just saying how important this was and how she talks about hey, listen, I'm for sure old, but I don't equate old with dying. At the moment, I equate it with learning and exploring and but I can't do that if I'm not supported. And I admire her for coming out and not knowing me from Adam, but supporting us. And that I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, it really does. And that's a tremendous job by her. And, you're talking about an icon right there. You really are. So the fact that she did that, again, it makes you smile to know that there are so many wonderful people in this business who
I'm fortunate, right? About that. Yeah. I mean, between Valerie Harper stepping up and I feel very fortunate about that. So I want to acknowledge that. I know that's just a very special thing because these are special people. They are special. And, I guess, I think that it's meant to be when something is so important. Those things, that's when those things happen, those little miracles.
Absolutely. Well, Susie, thank you again for giving me some time today. And I can't wait to watch this. And And folks, like I said, I mean, you really need to check this out. But before we go, folks, I just want to say that if I'm sure a lot of you know who Susie is, but for those who didn't and you just got to see her this last hour, we really should, like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we really should applaud her because what she is doing is so selfless. I mean, it's very unselfish, and it just shows the type of character this remarkable human being has. And I'm going to tell you right now that she may be a talented filmmaker, writer, producer, director, but when I think about Susie Singer-Carter, the person, that's what stands out the most to me because she is somebody that is doing everything right in this world. And if there were more people like her, this world would be tremendous. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.